About flattening. You are watching a short, sped up example of the flattening process. Flattening is a process of drawing on your avatar with a tool called 3D Pen Avatar, and then extracting these pieces out with a tool called flattening. If you'd like to follow along, I have imported one of the female avatars. She looks like this because I've removed all of the skins to make her very clean for my tutorial, but you can use any of the avatars, even with the skin, it's going to work exactly the same. I've also isolated my 3D window because for the initial process, I don't need to see the pattern window until after I have generated my patterns. So I'm going to begin showing 3D Pen Avatar and kind of the rules and restrictions that this tool has when using it. One of the things I recommend as well is that when you're working to build a symmetrical garment, that you only will have to create the patterns on one side of the avatar, and then we will make symmetrically cloned copies or unfold our patterns with symmetry in order to get both sides. To give myself a guideline for the center front, center back, I'm going to draw a line straight down the avatar's front and straight down the avatar's back. The tool works very similarly to how you would draw in the 2D window. You click once to start, and then you will have a segment following your cursor. As you move, you can left click to anchor and put points down, and then when you get to a location where you'd like to end, double click to finish that segment. As you move vertically or horizontally, you can hold Shift to give yourself a guideline and then double click to end. So on the front line that I drew, because this line has segment points, when I create my pattern, it's going to have segment points here. And at the back area, where I drew this in one clean line with no points, it's not going to have any segment points when it's generated. The other kind of rule that I follow is that I will only draw one segment area at a time, kind of avoiding turning corners. Every cornered area that I make instead is a result of two separate lines that I drew at different times intersecting. So that corner there is the result of an intersecting area, and the front is as well. So an example of what I recommend not to do is stuff like this, where you start here and then turn a corner and maybe keep going to finish up an area like this. I would not do this. Instead, what I would do, I'm going to hit Escape to get out of the tool, is I would draw the armhole as one continuous segment where I close the shape. When you get back to a starting point, you don't have to double click to end. You can click one time and it will complete. The reason why you only have to click once is because with this tool, you cannot cross over lines that you've already created. So here where I drew the shoulder seam after and I tried to finish it past the armhole segment that I drew, it gives me this error that says lines created with the line avatar tool cannot cross. Please try again. So because it cannot even cross, the program knows that when you get back to another segment or when you hit a segment, you can't go past it. So you only have to click one time to finish that. For the shoulder, or here if I draw a yoke seam, I can click once at that center front area, and then I can click once when I hit the armhole and it will finish. If you intend for this to be a slice into a pattern, or you're drawing kind of a guideline like I did with the center front and center back. So there you will double click to end because it doesn't hit another segment or it doesn't hit a point. I can double click and place a dart into this chest area. Then I'm going to draw a waist seam. So for this, I'll left click once to start and then hold shift as I move around. It will give me a horizontal lock guide. If I accidentally make a mistake and click a few times where I didn't want to click, if you hit the backspace key, it will undo 1 point step at a time. This is the same as when you're drawing in the 2D pattern window. So if you start a pretty intricate line and you make a mistake along the way, you don't have to delete it and redo the whole thing. Sometimes it helps too to get very close to where you're working. So I'm drawing one segment at a time, clicking around, holding the control key down as you click is what will make that point a curved point. So see these orange segment points? There's orange points and then there are black points. The orange points are curved. And while you left click to put a point down, if you hold the control key down, it will be a curved point. If you do not hold anything at all and left click, it will be a segment point. So if you made a mistake and you didn't want that to be a segment point, hit backspace and hold control until you get to the end. If you left click accidentally and get into the tool when you didn't intend to, you can always hit escape. That kind of goes for any tool where you can escape to get out of the initial starting action. I'm going to draw a side seam here, so click once to start, click once to end. And then I'll just draw some type of princess seam down the back area. I'm going to close up that center front to center back connection. I'm going to draw a crotch seam because I was having some trouble closing the shape. And instead, I'm going to start and stop at that seam that I marked out. As I'm moving around the leg opening, I'm holding control and left clicking to anchor the line as I move. So except at starting points and ending points and corner areas, you're generally always going to be holding control as you're clicking to anchor your line. Okay, so this is a nice example of something that I can now turn into a garment. If I would like to make any changes, there's a tool called Edit 3D Pen, in parentheses it says Avatar, and this tool will let you click and move points around. It will let you delete points by right-clicking on them and choosing delete. If you right-click on an area where there